I hope that what I say encourages you in your practice. We just said the line, let one not be submerged by the things of the world. Do you know that sensation of feeling submerged? If you don't feel it right now, you probably don't have to look far to see someone who is feeling the sensation of being submerged. Besides feeling miserable, the submerged have a hard time helping other people. There just doesn't seem to be the bandwidth when you're in elevated stress to take care of others well. So in a society that is feeling submerged, there's a feeling of going down together. The things of the world that threaten the submerged, that threaten to submerge us, are things that are not just things that we're repelled to, but things we're attracted to as well. What we don't have, and what we have, and what we want and what we don't want, these things can pull us around our entire lives. So what we have is a relationship with things. And the relationship with things, the painful relationship, can change when we change how we relate. So now I refer back to the chant we just chanted, the loving kindness meditation. It's a guideline for changing our relationship to things. There's a story that's attached to this sutra. Pardon me. The story is that in the time of the Buddha, he sent a group of monks, it was around the time of the rain retreats, to a land where there was a really beautiful forest. There was a village nearby where people were friendly and congenial. And so the monks sat down and began to meditate in the forest. But there were tree spirits or earth devas that decided that they didn't want the monks inhabiting this area, so they tried to frighten them away. They did frighten them away. The monks went back to the Buddha and told him about the scary things that they had seen and the horrible smells that were emanating, and sought his advice. And the Buddha, rather than saying it's okay to run away, he sent them back, but he sent them back with this teaching to dissolve their fear. In the practice of this loving kindness, they were able to dissolve their fear. They sat and they practiced, and the earth spirits saw them practicing wholeheartedly and saw that their fear fell away, and also saw that they were radiating goodwill to the earth spirits as well, and it calmed them. So that's the context for this Metta Sutra that comes to us. It is a teaching to relieve fear. I also wanted to say that one of the times that we say this chant together is during the garden days that we have periodically. And I hope that you'll come to the next one. I don't know if one was announced, but we have them, every few months. And when you're working and saying this chant, remember this story about the earth devas and the peaceful monks. The wildest spirits of all can be our own selves, but changing our point of view with goodwill and loving kindness brings peace, and maybe beyond ourselves. Have you ever flown on a plane where there's a crying baby behind you? Yeah, familiar. There's no escape, right? And so you could, in your misery, kind of double down with unskillful behavior during the flight. Or you could tap into your wisdom and wish the baby happiness. Wish the baby happiness, joy, and safety. Wish yourself happiness, joy, and safety. Wish those parents happiness, joy, and safety. And the flight attendants. And everybody on the plane, happiness, joy, and safety. Maybe the parents are flying for the first time with this little baby. Maybe they're afraid of flying themselves. Maybe their destination is something that is challenging to them, like going to a family funeral. They could well be submerged by the things of the world. So, radiating this calm kindness. Imagine if enough people were radiating calm kindness on the plane. It would certainly change the experience for yourself, but maybe for everybody, for the family, for everybody on the plane. It's very hard to be miserable when you're radiating goodwill. So in the sutra, by the way, I'm feeling like I probably need to have bifocals. Sorry, y'all on Zoom with the glasses on, off routine. The Buddha says that we cultivate an infinite good world towards the whole world. He also advises that we practice the way with gratitude constantly. So the operative words are to practice and to cultivate. To authentically be able to help someone to extend goodwill in a challenging situation, you have to do some training. There are many versions of how to formally practice loving kindness meditation, or metta. I think somebody spoke to us recently about the loving kindness meditation, maybe 6 months ago. Was it you, Gail? I feel like I heard something recently, and so I'm repeating this. I think that repetition is really the soul of Buddhist practice, isn't it? So you're hearing it again, but each line of this Metta Sutta could be its own Dharma talk. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to talk about a few lines that really stood out for me in a moment. But first, the practice. I'm going to give a brief explanation, offering the words of the teacher Sharon Salzberg verbatim. She has spent much of her life energy teaching and practicing the loving kindness meditation. So here's what she says. Begin by thinking about someone who has helped you. Maybe they've been directly kind or generous, or maybe they've inspired you even though you've never met them. When you think of them, they make you smile. Bring an image of the person to mind, or feel their presence if they're right in front of you. Say their name to yourself, and silently offer these phrases to them, focusing on one phrase at a time. May you live in safety. May you have mental happiness, such as peace and joy. May you have physical happiness, health, freedom from pain. By the way, what she's saying is to choose the phrases that are most alive to you, not necessarily the ones that you saw directly in the translation. May you live with ease. She says, don't struggle to fabricate a feeling or sentiment. If your mind wanders, simply begin again. After a few minutes, move on to a friend. Start with a friend who's doing well right now, and then switch to someone who is experiencing difficulty, loss, pain, or unhappiness. Offer loving kindness to a neutral person then. Someone who you don't feel a strong liking or disliking for. A cashier at the supermarket, a bank teller, a dry cleaner. As an aside, I read that she said this is very hard to find a neutral person because often when we see somebody, we immediately form a feeling of liking or disliking. And that is part of the Buddhist practice, to see that as it comes up and to notice and accept it. It's part of letting it go. So back to Sharon. When you offer loving kindness to a neutral person, you are offering it to them simply because they exist. You're not indebted, to or challenged by them. And then offer loving kindness toward a person with whom you have had difficulty. Start with someone mildly difficult and work slowly towards someone who has hurt you more grievously. It's common to feel resentment and anger, and it's important not to judge yourself for that. Rather, recognize that anger burdens within your heart and causes suffering. So, out of the greatest respect and compassion for yourself, practice letting go and offering loving kindness. And then finish by offering loving kindness to anyone who comes to mind. People, animals, those you like, those you don't, in an adventurous expansion of your own power of kindness. That last step is a direct practice of what we read in the sutra of suffusing love over the entire world, boundless and unlimited. For a translation of these early Buddhist texts from which the practice comes, you could look up the Vasuddhimagga, a 5th century Theravada and Buddhist text, and the Patisambhidagga. Give me another try. Patisambhidamagga, 2nd century. So did y'all get that? So these texts are a kind of a flavor of the Theravadan school, but here now in the 21st century and the 20th century, it's coming back to us in the Mahayana school. It's a nice fusion and to the benefit of everybody. When I read the loving kindness meditation lately, the phrase, not despising any being in any state, comes forward to me. In addition to cultivating loving kindness, the Buddha had some advice about what to avoid because this creates suffering. Not just the despising, but also, let one not take upon oneself the burden of riches. Let one's senses be controlled. Let one be wise, but not puffed up. And let one not desire great possessions for even for one's family. Let one do nothing that is mean or that the wise would reprove. Let none by anger or hatred wish harm to another. It's a kind of an old-fashioned way of saying a strong suggestion or advice, let one, but it is a very different kind of thing than saying don't. He's saying, to be like the wise, let one be like this. Not, don't be a fool, don't do this. It creates a different kind of sense of learning and encouragement. So, not despising any being in any state. Why not despise? It's kind of entertaining, right? Reading about other people despising, it's kind of interesting. But despising is a form of delusion. And our scorn just flattens and distills the complex entity of someone or something into just one thing that we dislike. And so that's a delusion. When we talk about heroes, we may describe them in terms which fundamentally the way that we describe heroes, our heroes, is delusional too, but we might talk about all the traits in their lives that we're impressed with, and so we don't do that for the despised. It's only this one thing. It hurts ourselves to despise. The despised might not ever even know how we feel about them, but we're creating this burning energy in ourselves. On some level, we might reserve our harshest judgment to those who display the qualities that we hate in ourselves. And finally, it's important to know that even those people or that person will be a Buddha someday. That person has Buddha nature, like we all do. And so, to soften this urge to despise, we practice the meditation, the loving kindness meditation, and also I feel it's helpful to take the long view. Can you visualize the most annoying person, the most irritating person, people in your family, the most dangerous politicians, sitting maybe 10, 20 years in the future with Buddhist robes on, having taken a vow of silence, sitting together in peace? It might take some effort. But you're seeing into the future. So I find that this image is a good companion to the practice of loving kindness meditation. So I'll leave it there. I'm being upstaged by this glorious being. And I hope that this little exploration of the loving kindness meditation begins to open it up for you in your life. And I look forward to practicing it with you now and forever.